It is Summer Access again, Saluki Nation, alongside the head coach Scott Nagy. I am Luke Martin as we welcome you to year 2 of the Coach Nagy era, finally underway here in the summer. Coach, how is just some open gym really this week for you and your group? What have you liked just about the first couple days, really letting the guys play and figure out how they want to work with their new teammates?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to give them just a little bit of instruction, but just, let them get a feel for each other, change the teams up. It gives us a little bit of an idea what we need to work on. I've never started this way, but I kind of like it because it's kind of the whole part whole. So, this is kind of how we want to play, get a look at it and then, start getting to some of the individual work and some of the skill development. So we'll start that tomorrow.
There was, and look, I don't want to set this up as any sort of me making an excuse or anything for you guys as a staff, but last year there was so much that was new, not just for the guys, but you and your whole staff trying to find places to live, coming in, working with one another. It was all new, working with you guys as a staff and a new team. Now in a new summer where most of you have already been acclimated, you got 6 guys back from the first year. How much of just a different feel is it for all of you now here in year 2?
I mean, it's way different. It is. Last year I couldn't look around the room and say, hey, if you have a question, ask this guy or ask this coach. It was all me. And now we've got 6 returning players that can let the other guys know this is what we do, this is what we don't do. We have coaches that understand what I'm looking for, and so it's a way different feel. We have a much deeper team. We can finally dribble. We just have some guys that can dribble and pass. We really didn't have a team like that last year, particularly after losing Elijah. We just didn't have really a team that put the ball on the floor very well, and we weren't a great passing team. I think this team's going to look a lot different.
When you were putting together this summer, what were some areas that you wanted to keep similar to a year ago, but also maybe change?
Most of it I want to keep similar. We'll probably have a little more pressure defensively. We can always dial it back if we need to, but I think we're quicker. We have great experience on the team. I think we have a very physical team. We have good size, but we also have really good experienced guards that are tough, and so and we're deep. You try to be careful after this being my 31st year of just making huge statements, because it's hard to remember team for team.
Yeah.
But I think particularly in my Division I era, Division II, I had some pretty deep teams and for Division II. But I do feel like that this is probably the deepest team talent-wise that we've had. I tell you, even our freshmen have come in here with a lot of confidence and are competing, which sometimes isn't always the case. So. I think we'll probably play more bodies this year. Now, some of that stuff can change too, because you can have injuries, and I know with freshmen sometimes once you really start practice, they kind of go backwards for a little while because they spend a lot of time thinking instead of playing, and so. But I just think we have a really deep team, and I think we'll play more players this year.
When you come and when you think of putting this group together, what did you enjoy about the process of putting these pieces together here over the last couple of months, Lee, and setting up for your summer?
Well, I think mostly my assistant coaches know a little bit more of what I want and what I want them to look for, and they we just moved so quickly last year, and they were trying to figure things out, and most of them were talking to Coach Gibbs, like what does Coach want, what does he like? Coach Gibbs would see a guy in film and say, that's what Coach is looking for, and they have a way better feel for that now, and we were able to put together, I think a team that's more skilled. We shoot it better, we handle it better. I think for this team, the big question will be, will we guard? And I do think because of the depth, we can really focus in on our defense and explain to the guys they're not going to score their way into the lineup. I think whoever we play will score. The question is, who are going to be the guys that are really committed to guarding.
That part of it, of putting what you want and seeing exactly the skill set you need a part of your team, maybe hasn't so much changed. But we all know, and look, it's the elephant in the room, that there is a transactional part of this. There is a money piece of this. Not necessarily in terms of the details of it, Coach, but how did you and your staff work together of, look, this is how we're going to put a value on a player, and how you work on and say, hey, this is what we want to value in terms of their skill but also the transactional piece of how you figure out of how you want to structure that, because that's still new for everybody to try to figure out.
Yeah, and the values are different for every team in terms of what they're looking for, what we're looking for, but you also have to consider what other people are willing to pay them. You know, trying to find that information out, it's not always easy. I think Coach Hawk dealt with most of the agents, and it's not very easy to determine whether or not they're just trying to drive the price up or they're actually telling us what's going on. And so I think that's the biggest piece, is figuring out with what you have, how you go ahead and value that, the things we're looking for. We wanted to get some more skilled fours, which fit in our offense better. And so, we have a lot of guys that are, multiple position guys, and we can play small, we can play big. We have great 5 seniors, great experience. Like I said, we shoot the ball better. But as a staff, we get together and after Hawk has dealt with some of the agents and things like that, we discuss, these are things most important. And sometimes, it could be, hey, we're not even going to, because of what we look for in positions and things like that, we may not be offering as much as somebody else. And other times we may offer way more because we want to get that kid and have it done and be done with it.
Look, there's multiple ways you can describe it: clutter, noise, etc. within that process. For you, Coach Nagy, what's the best way to cut through the clutter, to cut through the noise of whether it's talking to coaches that you trust, your support system within, of really getting to the roots of, hey, I need to figure out if this is going to be the right piece to add. What helps you cut through some of that noise and that clutter, just for you personally?
Well, what eventually cuts through it is what kind of person is it? Because there's a lot of good players out there. But, we all know the 80-20 rule, and we're looking for, the 20% guys that aren't necessarily looking around to see if coach is in the gym that I'll do what I'm supposed to do. But if he's not, then I may not. I want guys that they're, because we say this all the time, we're looking for their hearts, not their heads. And everybody, I tell these guys, everybody's, you think because if we practice hard, like we're getting a head start on everybody else. No, everybody's practicing hard. It's what you do. It's what you do when you're not in practice. We call it, like these guys have this pro time, which is their individual time. How much you getting in the gym, how many shots you getting in on your own. And so those are kind of the separators for me in terms of what we're looking for. It's easy for somebody to go, he's a great athlete, great player, but what kind of man is he? And is he coachable? Will he listen to you, or is he entitled? Because I just can't do the entitlement piece, and it's even harder in today's day with the NIL and all that other stuff. But once we get them here, it doesn't matter what they're getting NIL-wise. They're all going to get treated the same, and the expectations are going to be the same, and we're not making decisions based on that in terms of playing time.
Before we really highlight just some of the guys who are here and that I know a lot of our fans are excited to see play and hear about throughout our summer access series, is one of the points you mentioned with your guys today of you were structuring your teams in ways where, look, there's advantages you have and there's disadvantages you have. I want you guys to figure that part out. How important it is to really set up your time here in the summer to have your team where it can become a strength of theirs to really recognize when they have a massive advantage on the floor. Obviously not just with here in the summer with your own roster, but when you start playing games, that's such a huge piece of it, is recognizing when you have an advantage and also knowing maybe some of your disadvantages.
Yeah, and I think like you could play big and have advantages, but you do have some disadvantages, and can those guys guard, and but we can throw it in, and if you're small, you can really spread people out and cut them and drive them, and so you can look at it either way. What I wanted to see is either way we have an advantage here, and let's figure out how we do that. And so part of that is just basketball IQ. We just talk about the basketball, because I've coached guys that are super book smart and have terrible basketball IQ, and that doesn't make sense to me, but that's been the case. And I've coached guys that struggle in the classroom and are their basketball IQ's through the roof. And so there ain't any question our basketball IQ on this team is way better than it was last year, and so we're in a lot better spot. for a lot of reasons. There's so much work to be done, but we're very excited about it. We want our fans to be.
What are the biggest signs that allow you to feel that way of what you said? Man, I already know now. Just in terms of the basketball
passing, the passing, number one. I mean, they go down there and play the first day, and somebody drives baseline, and somebody what we call D-way cut. But man, I didn't see that. I don't know how many times I saw that once last year, and it was the first play. The passing and the cutting are two of the things for me, and it's clear. But part of that is because that's who we recruited. Guys that can do those two things. We were paying attention to that stuff. That's what we wanted, and it's clear that we already have that.
Well, let's talk about one of the incomers that I think everyone is stoked to see, and it's a lot of those areas of what you were saying, the ball handling and the direction of your offense. You knew you wanted to go out and get a point guard. Kellron House has had a good opening week, it feels like. Watching him, his command, his ability to not just pass but dribble, and also his shooting ability can be there as well. Just in terms of the package, what you've seen initially from Kellron.
Been great. He's it lists him at 6 foot. I don't know if he is. I stand next to him. Whatever. But he weighs 185 pounds, and he is built low to the ground. His center of gravity's low. You really can't pressure him because he's physical. He can get by you. He's a good passer, and he likes to take big shots, which I like to see. And so it just is. We have 4 or 5 guys, honestly, that can play the point guard for us and can dribble and make decisions. But, yeah, we made that a priority because that was such a struggle for us last year. And so he's going to help us look a lot different.
You mentioned some of the freshmen that have come in, and sometimes you feel like they go backwards for a little bit. Haven't seen much of that from Jaylen Haynes.
No,
the excitement level that he's really bringing to this group.
Great personality, loves to play. He just, like you can tell, he just loves to play basketball, and incredible athlete. I mean, things that he does, he makes them look easy, where other guys, like that's not easy for him. He can just do things that other guys can't because he's so athletic. And I think he just has exuberance about him, which is, it's fun to be around.
And what's also good to see is you want to see how those guys will respond. Take Luke Walsh, for example. There's times where you see in those scrimmages where the physicality part of it, you can see like, hey, this is a different level, but he almost responds to that failure really well.
Yeah, I mean, Luke, if there's one thing he's going to do is compete. And, he's excited about it too. I think, because everybody knows him as a shooter, there's a lot of other things he can do. And I don't want any of our guys to feel like, well, that's what I am. I'm a shooter. Because if you consider yourself just a shooter and you're not shooting the ball well, then you're not playing well. There's so many other things you can do, and he does them. Like he'll get on the floor for a loose ball. He'll be physical defensively. He's a good passer, and so he's not just that for sure.
Got 6 returners coming back. I don't think it's any secret, Coach, where you look at the teams that have had the most success, especially in a league like the Valley, it's those who have continuity. The 6 guys who do come back, what are you most encouraged by of the continuity that you bring and what you've seen from those 6 so far early?
Just them helping and talking to the other players, about, hey, we don't do that, or, this is what we do. And there's just a lot more – there's a lot more talk, a lot more chatter, a lot more competition. It's great as long as they don't carry it off the floor. But they've helped us to, for everybody to really get at each other and compete.
There are many guys I know you can point to in that group and be proud of, and everyone's got a reason for it. I mean, I just want to spotlight Jorge and just how much different he looks, obviously, compared to a year ago at this time when he wasn't quite here yet come July.
Yeah.
But you talk about a young man that has really embraced so much of what you demand and has transformed his body. He's now recently engaged as well, about to get married. I mean, he's transformed just about everything in part of his life.
Yeah, and he, as an example, I said this to my wife yesterday, the first day down in the weight room, they were doing some plyos, and, they're probably jumping 4.5 feet off the floor, off 2 feet, from a sit-down position, stand up, jump up. And he did it with ease, and I thought to myself, I mean, he couldn't have come close to doing that last year because his body was in shape. He has worked so hard, and even since the season's been over. The one thing about him, and I would say of all our players, He didn't get a ton of playing time last year, but I would say of all our guys that didn't, he had the best attitude about it and was always a great teammate. He has continued to work hard. He's going to have a great chance to play for us this year. And, he's put himself in a good spot, and it's all because of his attitude.
We talked so much about the Mayo Effect and did a year ago, and know when he wasn't in there, it was a massive factor for your team. Where do you want to see him make that effect even bigger this year?
Well, I want him to focus on the same things. Sometimes, and I'm not saying he's doing this, but I've watched where guys think, oh, you don't want a bigger role. Well, we always know what a bigger role means. That means I want to score more. And if he scores more, great. But I keep telling all our guys, you're not going to score your way into the lineup. And I don't want him to think that way. I want him to do the things that separated him, and really was the MVP of our team last year was all the hustle plays, the play like he made at UIC to win that game, those kind of things. That's what we need to continue to do, the rebounding. And if he scores more, great. I'm happy. I'm all about it. But with all the guys, I think they all feel like a bigger role. Well, I know what that means, and that's great. I want that, but you won't get that bigger role unless you do the stuff we're asking you to do, and we need him to continue to do that and be a catalyst for us.
Even times last year, Coach Nagy, I don't think Drew Steffi was a guy that was afraid to use his voice at times, but now when you just have that more experience, it really becomes more natural. Have you seen him take more of a leadership role as well this summer?
Yeah, he's way more comfortable, and he's playing a lot better. He's much more aggressive, a lot more talk from him. But he did redshirt, so he's a junior in college, and we expect him to be one of our leaders but highly competitive. A lot of trash talk, those kind of things, which is good because it gets everybody turned up. But yeah, way different personality this year from him.
Look, we'll have tons of time throughout the summer to introduce our fans to these new pieces and the guys who are coming back as well to see their improvement. But I know the guys towards the tail end that we haven't had a ton of time to talk about yet. Max Picar really coming in from St. Louis, showing a lot of athletic ability, I know, this week in practice. And, of course, Prince Aligbe, who's the brother of Rollins, coming in. Those are two guys who have had experience playing college basketball, Prince more than Max, but two guys that you see a lot of upside in.
Yeah, again, versatile players, play a lot of positions, but just give us athleticism, size, harder score around the basket on us. I mean, we've already had a ton of block shots here in practice, from both of them, and so it just makes our team deeper with a lot of really good players, and it allows us to play a lot of different ways.
As you look towards now, just in these initial weeks, what do you look at as like, this is essential right now, Luke, for us? We have to do these things here early to set ourselves up for a really good summer. Just,
establish the fundamentals offensively, playing off 2 feet and taking care of if we'll take care of the basketball guard, we'll be just fine. And so, just working on all those things. And it's slow for me, the fundamentals, to teach them, and our coaches do a better job of that, but we need to do it. And then for each of them to demand of themselves to be a great defender. Let that be the value to the team, not your offense. And it's very hard to get guys to think that way because they've been rewarded their whole life for scoring. But, we need everybody to think like Lou Dort does for OKC. First team all-league, just plays out there like a linebacker. If we can get everybody to think like that, we'll have a tremendous season.
Coach, appreciate the time. We look forward to many more conversations here throughout the summer.
Thanks.
Once again, that was head coach Scott Nagy. Be sure to stay tuned to all of Saluki basketball this summer for all of Summer Access.